Even though your show is a lighthearted comedy, it tackles real world issues. It talks about body image. It talks about, again, diversity. It talks about essentially living in a middle class life, working at Cloud9, what it's like. Talk to me about being able to tackle these topical issues.
You know, it's funny because I don't think it was ever Justin's intention, Justin Spitzer, our show creator. I don't think it was his intention to necessarily like be an issues show, but it kind of just happened organically because again, we're dealing with a group of people that represent a real part of America and ultimately represent all of America. And these are real things that come up, you know? So there was like a huge controversy because we had an abortion episode. Well, our abortion episode was like 2 lines that just mentioned like, you know, that we had a pregnant teenage character on the show and somebody said something about like, oh, well, it's great that you kept the baby. And she's like, oh, I just couldn't get a ride to get an abortion. And then someone said like, I would have driven you. And then it's like, you can't offer rides to abortions. And that was kind of it. And it was so controversial to people, but it was just like, but that's a real conversation. Like it wasn't like a plot point. It wasn't, you know, being hammered over the head that we had an opinion about whether that was right or wrong. It was just presenting something that is real to people and exists in society. So I think that's kind of the cool thing that we've been able to do is pointing out those things that happen, but not doing it in a way that feels like it's preachy or on a soapbox. It's just saying like, hey, here's this thing that's happening. Remember this?
That's true.
That's relevant to all of us. And definitely something else that we've tackled that has been really relevant is the whole union idea that in the end of the first season, there was a whole bunch about that, about, the fears that the employees were going to unionize. And it's such a real thing. I actually worked in a store in Canada, much like the Cloud9. It was called Zellers. It's our version of like a Kmart type store. And there was so much craziness about that. Like I remembered you'd be like straightening shoes and I'd be like, what is this? And then I'd pull out this like, are you being asked to unionize? Call the people that are really like, it was like all this anti-union paraphernalia. And then, you'd go 2 aisles down and then what is this? And it would be a pro-union pamphlet. So it was like such a bizarre thing for as a teenager being like not really understanding that concept, but is really real for a lot of the people that work in those jobs. And those are, the workers' rights and all of those things. And a living minimum wage is something that is very relevant. So I think it's great that we get to like hold up that mirror to society,